Well, good afternoon. Today we're going to talk about all-in-ones. And all-in-ones cover a class of reef products that are all-inclusive, all your major and minor elements, so that is supposed to save you some work. I like them all. We're going to talk about Ready2Reef, Component 3-in-1, and all For Reef. Each one made by a separate manufacturer, Fauna Marine, Aquaforest, and Tropic Mara, respectively. Now, first thing I want to say is that I like them all. I'm not for or against anything. And I did some research myself. I've used two of these products in the past, and I've done a lot of research online, talked to quite a few people who use these products to get their feedback too. And we're going to discuss them in generally at first, the good, the bad, the ugly, and this applies to all of them in general. That's an all-in-one. I'm going to start by saying that the term all-in-one, the word all, probably shouldn't be used, because it depends on your situation, your tank, the absorption rate in your reef tank, as to whether it has everything that you need and whether it's advantageous for you to use it. So first, let's talk about the good. The good is one product that does everything is a wonderful idea. And being able to take care of your alkalinity, your calcium, and your magnesium with one product does save a lot of aggravation. It also saves you dosing pump money. It saves you manual dosing time and money. Less bottles laying around. When you have a 2-part or a 3-part, you always have one half-empty bottle, one full bottle. You got to buy 2 in order to get one, and they're shipping, and you end up with a lot of extras. We all know the trick. Another thing is cheaper shipping costs. When you're buying just one thing, especially if it's available in a powder, I don't think Ready2Reef is available in the powder, but the 3-in-1 and all For Reef is. You could save a lot of money. The powders are tough to mix. That's kind of a downside too, but it is cheaper to ship and you can keep more on hand. Also, keeping your existing major elements, your calcium, magnesium, and alkalinity all in check with just one dose is a wonderful thing. Now, we're going to talk a little bit about what that really means, and that it may not be the situation with most people as your tank grows and your absorption increases, or if it's young and you don't have that much absorption. It's kind of a mid-scale. So if you're on the bottom of the scale, if it's young, you probably don't need it. If you're on the top of the scale where you're absorbing a lot, it may not be as advantageous. So we're going to talk about that. The bad part about it. Cost per product and shipping can be pretty expensive. None of these products are made in the United States. They're all coming from Europe. So there are supply chains. There's issues with supply chains. You could buy them on Amazon, but of course you're not buying from the manufacturer. These are third-party salespeople, and that could be aggravating. You don't know how old the product is, how long it's been on the shelf, or what's really in it. And so I hate to say it, but the truth of the matter is with liquids, who knows if it's been tampered with or not when you're not buying it from the manufacturer. Now, depending on your tank's absorption, you may need to do some additional dosing to maintain healthy levels of your major elements, including alk. So your alkalinity may go up and down, and it may not be able to maintain it itself. And what happens if you try to increase your alkalinity by increasing the dosage, your calcium may go up to 600 from 450. And the same thing with the trace elements. If you figure you're not getting enough trace elements, you increase your dosage, your calcium, magnesium, and alkalinity goes up through the roof in order to try to get enough trace elements. So there is a happy medium where you have to have the right absorption in your tank to justify dosing an all-in-one. Another thing you have to remember, the bad end of it is don't think because it's an all-in-one that you don't have to test your water. I saw a video of a guy that's saying, I don't need to test anymore. I don't even do water changes. This does it all. It does not. I've read their websites, I've read their opinion, but the truth of the matter is you're going to have to do ICP testing to make sure that your trace elements are there, that you're not being overdosing them by mistake, by overdosing your all-in-one. You're also going to check out your water quality by changing your water regularly on a weekly basis, 10 to 20%. Keep changing it. You have to use good salt, a quality salt that you're changing your water with. So you still got to do the work. You still have to do the maintenance. You don't get away from it with an all-in-one. Let's talk about the ugly. Good, the bad, the ugly. These are common issues, again, with all the products. If your tank is fairly newly matured, you're doing 10 to 20% weekly water changes, you may not need to dose anything at this point in time. The truth of the matter is you should test your water the day before you do your water change. And if your calcium, your alkalinity, your magnesium is within a certain percentage, maybe 10, 15% of what it was when you did your water change, and that should be exactly what it says on your salt. Whatever your salt says alkalinity is, magnesium and calcium is, that's where your salt should be baselined at. and for your whole tank. So the day before you do your water change, your salt should be, those levels, do that water change, they should be pretty close to what it says on your salt. And if they start to drop down and your absorption is increasing that much, then it's time to start dosing. No matter what you're using, an all-in-one, 2-part, 3-part, Calc-Walser, whatever it is, that's when you start dosing. So it doesn't matter what you choose to use in this case with an all-in-one, any of the products. The truth of the matter is you have to start with a level alkalinity, calcium, and magnesium. So if your magnesium is low, you have to add magnesium before you start your all-in-one. If your calcium's low, you've got to add calcium. Same thing with alkalinity. So you need those stable elements in equilibrium before you even start using the all-in-one. So you're probably going to have to buy a bottle of each of those anyway, just to get stable before you start using the all-in-one. Now again, they're all good, but to imply that they're a standalone just isn't the case. It's not the case. And it's not the case because, again, if you don't have enough absorption in your tank, and your tank is fairly young, it's matured, you're adding frags, coral frags, but it doesn't have colonies in it yet. It's not over 1.5 years old yet. Hasn't really hardened the way a good reef tank will harden. The chances are that you're not absorbing enough alkalinity, calcium, and magnesium in order to be dosing enough trace elements with the all-in-ones in order to give your corals what they need. So you're going to have to start dosing trace elements until your absorption is high enough so that you're not just using like 8 milliliters a day. You really need to be dosing about 20 milliliters a day of each of these products for it to be an all-in-one, for everything to be in the water column to be available for all your corals. If you're dosing 2 to 5 milliliters, and if you have a fresh tank, that's probably all you're dosing. If you're doing water changes, you're not going to have the trace elements that you need. You're going to have to dose trace elements. So it's more than likely when you're maturing in a new tank, you're going to just do water changes and add trace elements and not really add any calcium, magnesium, or alkalinity. So keep that in mind. A quality salt really makes a big deal. So let's talk about pH just for a second. Now I'm going to bring up this product information, and let's see here. pH neutral. All of these have alkalinity buffers in it, therefore they have a stable pH. They stabilize your pH when you put it in there as long as your tank itself is stable. They are neutral, so they won't increase or decrease your pH any way whatsoever. But you have to note that some of these products are a little more stable depending on where their calcium is sourced from and what salt that you're using to begin with. I found a good combination. All For Reef with their Pro Reef salt is a fantastic combination. The water changes with Pro Reef salt lasts, so you probably don't even have to dose All For Reef for 1.5 years after your tank is set up. It's actually that rich in calcium and alkalinity. It's very stable. The pH is stable, about 8.1, no issues there. I'm not going to mention the other products, but I have found another product that is a 3-1 in the picture you're seeing that's not quite as stable. So pH can drop down to about 7.9, so you have to be prepared to adjust. In fact, that company makes a product, Brightwood makes a product called Boost pH Plus that does a great job of maintaining 8.2 without changing your alkalinity. So you have to be careful for that. Also, using the salt that's made by the company that makes a product, the all-in-one that you're using could be advantageous too. It's reasonable that a company that you choose to use all-in-one is also using their own salt to test, to engineer, and to develop the product that you're using. So if you're looking at the numbers on their website and you're seeing what you like, you're looking at numbers that are based on their product, their salt, their all-in-one, their everything. So sometimes if you're going to start out with Tropic Marin, stick with Tropic Marin. You're going to start out with Aquaforce, stick with Aquaforce. You're going to start out with Fauna Marine, stick with Fauna Marine. Let's take a look at the next one here. Beneficial bacteria, very important. None of them come with any bacteria in them. However, the one thing should be mentioned with Tropic Marine, All For Reef, and I'm not selling their product. I mean, I use their product, I like it, but the truth is the truth, is they do include trace elements that are required to grow healthy bacteria and to colonize and expand in your tank. And I say this because the trace elements that Tropic Marin includes are all the trace elements found in natural ocean water. I think there are about 70 or 72 trace elements, whereas the others, they have actually reef essential trace elements. Might be 17, 20 trace elements that are really used by a coral reef. So having all of the trace elements that are available in ocean water feeds everything in the ocean including the bacteria, inverts, algae, plants, livestock, stuff living in the sand, weird stuff I don't even know what it is. But if it's in the ocean, Tropicmera doesn't put it in their trace elements. So let's see here. Again, this is just another thing about the trace elements. If you're dosing less than 8 milliliters a day of any of these products, you're going to have to dose trace elements because there's just not going to be enough in that small amount of the all-in-one in order to feed your corals the way they need. Tropicmera, again, has all the trace elements that are found in natural ocean water. Fauna Marin and Aquaforest have reef essential trace elements in them. What do we have here? Final thoughts. Nothing's easy. That's why I did this video. And all-in-one options are nice, but they're not foolproof. You're going to need to buy separate alkalinity, calcium, and magnesium to start out with. You're going to have to buy a quality salt that matches your desired parameters to begin with. Stick with the salt so that your equilibrium is always stable. You're not jumping all over the place. Understand that you're more than likely going to have to do some adjusting of your major and minor elements as you go, even though it's an all-in-one. You'll need to test your parameters, do water changes. And again, that's why I said both major and minor elements, you're going to have to adjust and check for and have them available to keep balance in your reef. You have to maintain your pH in whatever application applies to your scenario. And when pH, we all know that when it comes to pH alkalinity in any part of the equilibrium, it really depends on water temperature, carbon dioxide in the room, what's in your tank, how much live rock, how much coral, it goes on and on. So just something to think about. They're all good products. I've used 2 of them successfully. I enjoy it, but they were not really what I would call an all-in-one unless you're within a specific perimeter. So again, if you got a new tank, a small tank, which is not absorbing enough, you're more than likely going to be dosing trace elements before you even use this product, and you're not going to start using these products until your alkalinity and calcium drop about 10 or 15% the day before your water change from where they were when you first do the water change, and that should match what's on your salt. Second point is that if you got a big tank and it's matured and you got high absorption and you're using 50 to 80 milliliters of one of these products a day, you're spending a lot of money. It gets pretty expensive pretty quick. So at that point, and I've talked to quite a few people, they're usually dosing Kalkwasser. They're adding calcium or using a calcium reactor. They're at a point where they're not going to spend, $200 a month on all-in-one product because they don't want to have to do a little extra work. So if you're absorbing a lot of nutrients or a lot of elements, you're more than likely going to look for another option other than spending this kind of money. So I would say for somebody with a tank between 50 and 100 gallons that's matured, that's absorbing a reasonable amount of alkalinity and calcium, you're dosing maybe 20 to 30 milliliters a day, great. You're going to love it. It's fantastic. You're going to have to dose here and there a little bit to keep everything even. But if you're way below that or way above that, it's probably going to be outside of the range of what's considered really feasible to maintain your reef. I hope you guys enjoyed this, got something out of it. Finn, the fish that you see right there, he loves these videos. That's his new little frag rack there. He's got some new gonies in, so he's been helping me keep them clean. We appreciate you guys tuning in. We hope to see you again very soon. We at FishyFins appreciate it. If you have any comments about these products or some information, pictures or video, please share them with us. We love to share them and share them with our Facebook groups. Again, you have a wonderful day. We'll see you in your reef tanks.